evening, everyone, on the MYBC Consulting Facebook business page. It is Tuesday night, and you know what time that is, either at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time or 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, respecting the guest author's time frame, so they're not coming in the middle of the night. Though one person got up at 3 o'clock in the morning in England to be able to do this. So that's dedication when it comes to writing a book. This is the time it's called my little MYBC virtual bookstore author series. This is where I bring you authors, and now I've brought you an editor, a book agent, an illustrator, children's book, fiction, nonfiction, horror writer, genre, so you can understand what it means to be an author. So we can honor together the creative writing journey. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to Dee, and I'm going to get Dee to say her last name because I'm sure I will bastardize it.
No, the last name is DiFatta. And I always say to people, I said, it's like DiMutta, but DiFatta.
I like it. I like it a lot. So Dee, please tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Where are you on this big blue marble called Earth?
On this big blue marble called Earth, I am in Massachusetts. So for me, it is 8 o'clock p.m. But it's all good. Thank God it's not the middle of the night. Yeah, I've been through a journey, you know, and my writing journey has been amazing. That was based on a self-discovery journey. It's amazing how as you're on a self-discovery journey and you realize different things, you really want to share with people because you don't want them to suffer the way you did.
So tell us a little bit about your background. Like, what do you do? Do you have a family? That kind of stuff. Before we get into how that story translated down onto a piece of paper.
So I'm a mom. My daughter is 23 years old and living on her own, which still blows my mind. I'm living with my soulmate who just fills me with love and joy every day. His name is Mike. And I have a little fuzzy critter. Actually, I shouldn't say little fuzzy critter. His name is Jackson. And I post things about him on Facebook all the time because he feeds my soul.
So what have you done for work? What has been some interesting background about you?
So it's funny, when I got out of college, I went to college to be a marketing management major, okay? I thought I was going to be in advertising. Yes, this is what I want to do. I want to be an ad executive and put the ads on television. And I got out of college and it went, it just didn't work. So I ended up in retail. And I'm like, okay, why am I in retail? But I really enjoyed it. So then I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and retail wasn't really the job for me anymore. So I ended up in sales, which I sucked at sales. It's just funny how it all kind of goes together because at the time you're going, oh my God, my life sucks. Why am I here? What is going on? When is it going to get better? It's like epic failure after epic failure. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I get it. So after sales, my dad actually said to me, he goes, Dee, you suck at sales. He goes, you really need to get a real job. And I'm like, okay. So I put out into the universe, I'll take any job, even a receptionist job. And guess what I ended up with? A receptionist job. So I worked in the insurance industry for 17 years, and there's nothing wrong with being a receptionist. I loved it. And I moved up the ladder from there. And then I realized, you know what? I have so much to share with the world. This is not the place for me anymore. It's too black and white, and I am way too colorful. And, you know, they kept trying to fit me into this teeny tiny box, asking me to do things. And I'm like, no, that doesn't like jive with my integrity. And somebody came in one day and they're like, hey, defiant one. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. I'm pretty defiant.
I've been called a disruptor. So I like defiant. That's a new one for me. I like it.
Oh, I was excited to be called defiant. I'm like, yes, I am defiant. I am not a yes girl. I have never been a yes girl. I will not. No, I can't do it. I won't do it. And I finally found the faith within me to leave a full-time job I had been at for 17 years. And I'll never forget as long as I live. I went in to tell my boss that I was resigning. I had a letter and everything. And he goes, what are you doing for insurance? And I said, I don't know yet. And he goes, you have MS. He goes, what are you going to do? I go, I don't know yet, but it's all going to work out. And he goes, wow, you have serious cojones. I'm like, yeah, I guess I do.
I'm just going to pause you just there for a second. You'll find I'm a very very interesting interviewer chat, because I stay in the present. I don't know what your book's about. I know a little bit about your journey, and this is what it's so fascinating for me to hear this. Isn't it interesting that immediately his mind went to what's in it for him? Oh my gosh, still need an insurance policy. But bigger than that is calling it, you must have big conies, instead of looking at it and going, you must have really deep faith in what you're doing. Like, what a way to box you out in such a way versus welcoming you on this next journey.
Well, now you can understand why I left.
Wow.
It just, there was no alignment there at all. None.
My favorite word. Love that word.
And you know what? I was being called to share what I had learned, to share about perspective and positivity and alignment and awareness. I was called to share that with the world. And I could only share it with a very small group while I was working from 9 to 5. So it was time to move on. And I didn't know, I had no idea. I had nothing planned. I didn't have anything saved. I just knew it was time to go. I mean, I received the calling. It was time to go. And I'm like, okay, I have faith. I'm going, oh, dear God, I have faith.
I have faith, right? I have faith.
Yeah. I took the leap of a lifetime, a lifetime. I mean, never in a million years would I have done that like 10 years before, you know, or even 5 years before, because I was one of those control freaks who had to hold on to everything super duper tight. And I was like, nope, I'm letting go. And it was like, okay. But it was amazing. After I left, everything just kind of fell into succession. It was, oh my God, what a journey.
So, PositivDee coach? What? I'm saying that.
PositivDee coach.
PositivDee coach. What the heck is that?
It's basically somebody who comes at life from a completely different perspective. So when I meet with people, I always say, what's your story? Please share your story with me. And within the first 5 minutes of the conversation, it never fails. They've said the same thing 5 different ways. And immediately I know what's eating at them. And I will step in, you know, a few minutes after, and I'm like, can I just interrupt for a second? Do you realize that you just said this like 5 different times? And they're like, what? I'm like, all of a sudden they're aware of something that they weren't aware of before. Like there was one lady I was talking to, and she told me like 5 different ways how she's gained 20 pounds over this pandemic. And I said, do you realize what you just said? She goes, no. I said, well, I know a lot of your attention is going here to this whole weight gain thing. So tell me more about that. And she was like, I said, what? Really? I said that? I'm like, yes, your mind is thinking about that. So let's talk through it. So yeah, that's where we start. You know, we're all faced with challenges and there's no control over some of them, but we have absolute control over how we deal with them. So that's where the PositivDee comes in. You know, it's all about perspective and positivity.
Oh my gosh, there's so much there to unpack. So like they apparently they say in the interview world. Okay, so did the name come to you? Like, how did the name get dialed down to you? Because it's so cool. It's such a cool name.
So this is a fun story. For the longest time, for years, I was tripping over a title, something to call myself. I had no idea. And I tried so many different things. And the one that I tried before this one, because I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 28 years ago, I wanted to bring smiles and laughter and inspiration and motivation to the MS community. So I called my website the MS Funnies. Well, come to find out, I wasn't ready for the MS community yet. They weren't ready for me either. So all my followers were people who didn't have MS. And I'm like, I need to change something.
Mhm.
I went over to my brother's house and my sister-in-law said, "Oh my God, you're here." She goes, "I need a dose of D." And I'm like, "Okay." And, I'm like, "A dose of, yeah, I really like that." So I left it in her capable hands to come up with a name. And her brother were talking one night and they're like, "PositivDee."
That's beautiful. Now,
Yeah,
as
I
a
can't even
coach,
take credit for it. Everybody
oh,
else was
that's
putting
I love that. And I can just feel the energy behind that when somebody else, it's almost like when somebody gives you a recommendation or says something nice about you online, it's when they've used their I call it time currency energy, and puts your name across their lips or through their fingers to the keyboard.
Yeah.
And that person like you receiving that,
Mhm.
there's such that gift in that giving and the receiving, and you receiving that energy in that person, and that's how your world of influence is going to receive you as well. Is what a
Exactly.
beautiful way to like step into this new role that you have.
Yeah.
Now, as a coach, have you taken some training, or what does that look like as being a positivity coach?
So it's funny. Back in the day, I would have beaten myself up for not having years and years and years of training behind me, okay? And like titles and this and that, whatever. But I'm kind of directly dialed in.
Okay.
The powers
Hmm.
that be. I'm a conduit. And everything that comes through me, when I write, it's not even like my words. It comes from a higher power. So I'm like, okay. Um, and I've been through so much in my past, in my lifetime, and I'm the kind of person who I have experiences and I don't mind sharing them.
Hmm.
If it's going to help someone else on their path, on their journey, I bring it up in conversation. And at the time, I didn't realize what all these experiences were about. And it never fails when someone comes into my life and I'm coaching with them, it's like, I get it now. Thank you.
Mm.
So it's very relatable. Like everything that I've been through is very relatable. And I'm also, I hold a very sacred, safe place for people to tell their stories, and I'm a listener. I stay present in the moment. I'm not on my phone. I'm not checking my emails. There's nothing beeping, booping, whatever.
Hmm.
It's all about them. It's all about the eye contact. It's all about listening and understanding what they're saying. And there's just so much to be said for that instead of somebody else running through a program that they've written out and they're
Hmm.
doing it by the book. I'm like, no. Like when people ask me what my program's about, I'm like, well, we're reframing your story so that you can live in the present moment happily,
Hmm.
and healthfully, and redesign your path forward. So it's all good. And they ask me, what does that look like? Well, it looks like whatever unfolds for us.
Hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of baggage that we're all carrying around through life. And when you discover what that is, it's like, oh, okay, then we work to release it.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's very individualized. You could be completely different than someone else that I work with. And I meet you exactly where you're at on your journey.
Oh, I love that. Kind of liken it to that special feeling when you go to a restaurant and you just say, just make me what you feel inspired in the
Yes.
moment. I'm allergic to this and this, or I'm sure
Yep.
as a coach, there's topics that it's like, you know what, these are things I will never share with you, but everything
Yep.
else it is, I like to say, a la carte is
Mm-hmm.
just be inspired. I'm sitting here and I'm gonna enjoy whatever
Yeah.
comes to my plate, whatever
Yeah.
comes to my plate, and give great honor to that creative spirit that got dialed through that person with food. As you can tell, I'm a little bit of a foodie. You have lots of
Me
analogies
too.
connected to food, okay, and breaking bread. To me, this is like we've met. You're in Massachusetts. I'm in just
Yep.
south of Vancouver, BC, right near the U.S. border. And
Mm-hmm.
as soon as we do something like this, the metaphorical bread is broken. The
Oh yeah.
metaphorical glass of wine is cheers between
Yes.
us, and we become family. When we share each other's
Mhm.
story, we become family. And with that, so now we've got all these experiences, and it leads you to you're sharing in your present, you're sharing with your voice, you're sharing your gift of presence. and your actions in reality. So now it's time to take fingers to keyboard or pen to paper or voice recorder to device to create a book. So what is the name of your book and what did that journey look like, Dee?
Oh my gosh. The name of my book is, get this one, Your Daily Dose of PositivDee.
Oh, come down a bit. Come down a bit. Down a bit more.
See?
There we go. Oh, perfect. Okay, love the cover.
So the picture on the front was inspired. I was so into watching sunrises and sunsets in my yard. I took so many pictures, and this just, oh my gosh. I mean, talk about, you know, God, spirit, universe, whatever you want to call them, right in front of you. I'm like, hello. Yeah, I wanted to write a book in 2014 called Blessed with MS, because I truly felt blessed with the disease. And I started writing, and then I kept writing, and I kept journaling, and I kept journaling, and like every day it was something different. I just kept going and going and going with it. And I'm like, oh, like, what do I do? I was so confuzzled as to the book I was going to put out there. And I was invited to write a chapter in a collaboration book.
Okay.
And I wrote a letter of forgiveness to myself, to my younger self from my higher self. And that was amazing. Got me out of my own way, cleared a lot of clutter that was in the head. And not too long after that, I started reading through my old notebooks to see what I had written, to see what kind of inspiration I could get for a book. And I was highlighting different lines that really resonated with me and jumped out at me. And I looked at all the highlights and I go, you have a book of inspirational quotes.
Ah.
So it wasn't planned. It was divinely guided, which is why I knew it was meant to be. And honestly, it took all of 3 weeks to get it from soup to nuts.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
You're after my own heart. I'm a girl that loves me some quotes. I managed to find the Oxford Dictionary of Quotes. And it's it's amazing book you need inspiration on. So I love to have you read the back of your book, please.
Sure.
I love having authors read the back of their book because much like in life, we judge a book by its cover and we don't flip each other over.
Gotcha.
So I'd love for you to read the back of your book, please.
So the back of my book, it starts with a word from the author. Before I decided to step outside of my comfort zone and get curious about other options in my life, I felt trapped on a hamster wheel. Every day I woke up to the same limiting beliefs, self-doubts, fears, and worries. It wasn't until I was divinely guided to seek out a positive community that I met new people with different mindsets. Once I allowed myself to entertain new perspectives, my world started to shift. As I learned more about positivity and the profound effect my breath, thoughts, words, and actions played on my reality, I started to experience aha moments that awakened me. Your Daily Dose of PositivDee is a compilation of quotes I wrote during this time. My intention is to support, encourage, and inspire you on your journey of self-discovery, spiritual enlightenment, and healing. Although you may not get to choose what happens to you in life, you have absolute control over how to deal with it. With gratitude and positivity, Dee DiFatta.
It's so good. And who is the book dedicated to?
Oh, my soulmate, Mike.
Oh, that's beautiful. So I'm going to get you to turn to page 20 and read me a quote off of page 20.
How about if you, I don't have any of the pages numbered. How about if you choose a date? Just choose a date.
Oh, January 20th.
I should have figured that out, but nope.
That's my birthday.
I'm a writer, not a mathematician.
Same. It's
Can't be good at everything.
I'm just so happy that a phone has a calculator and that I have a device that I can say, excuse me, I'm not going to say the person's name connected to the device. Can you please spell? I can communicate, but I
Okay.
can't spell or do math. So please go ahead.
The quote for January 20th is, "Your spirit can be bruised, but it can never be broken."
I love that. So it sounds like, is it broken up by like daily? That you,
It's
oh,
daily.
okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Did you just see the light bulb go off above my head where the light bulb is going
It's
on right
daily,
on you?
and I'm trying to hold this up. Do you see how big the font is?
Oh, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
So 365 quotes.
Yes.
Okay, Dee, the question that I love to wrap up
Mhm.
is, who do you think, name 3 people that you think this book would be a great gift for?
Anyone who is looking for a different way, something else. There's got to be something else. If you say there's got to be something else, there is. It's a different
Okay.
perspective. Your daily dose of positivity. Anyone who's on a healing journey,
Okay.
okay, because there's a lot of healing in this book. And anyone who wants to step off the hamster wheel but doesn't know how.
And all that from reading quotes.
Yeah.
Wow.
It definitely helps.
Oh my gosh, that's good. And I'm going to say the highly organized person is to be able to have that book that's to start your day. I have a book of gratitude, and every day there's a gratitude quote that's in it. So I'm going to get your book because I'm going to need a new one for 2023. I'm also going to say a wordsmith, somebody who needs to read a quote to get inspired to maybe start journaling, maybe start writing their own story connected to it. And I'm also going to say, I'm going to say a good gift, because when you said at the very beginning that your daughter moved out and she's on her own, is a gift to that student or to that young person that is going out on their own. Something that is going to be grounded, that they can keep on their shelf, on their coffee table, to be able to go back to and go, this is today. What words can I use for today? So those are kind of, after learning about you and how the journey is, and I'm going to say that because there's those, I like your way versus those tear off pages, because those calendars, because they tear off and you throw it away.
I know.
Yours has deeper value to be able to keep it in a book. So a person that doesn't like to waste words as well, I'm going to say.
That's beautiful.
Oh my gosh, Dee, this has been, you've definitely given me a dose of PositivDee. That's fantastic. Everybody needs to put you in a jar, take a big swig in the morning of, well, they can with your book. So I'm going to wrap this up by asking you, so what do you say to the person who wants to write a book?
Just let the words flow. Let it flow. You'll know. You'll know what you're supposed to write. You will, if you sit with it, you will receive the divine guidance to know exactly what you're to put out there. But just keep writing.
Beautiful.
No judgment, no criticism, none of that. Just keep writing. Let it flow.
Great words of advice, my friend. Great words of advice. Please stick on when I say we're done, because I need to do my fun little screenshot for the thumbnail. So there you go. There's another perspective. Dee is my first person, my first guest author who's written a book about quotes. So what an absolute joy to learn your journey and to understand who needs to be gifted this book as well. So guys, I end this always. Go to your bookshelf. I've got one here and one here. Grab a book. Find your favorite place to curl up. Grab your favorite beverage. Take your mind, body, and soul to another place through the creative writing of somebody else. Until next Tuesday, I wish you all well, happy reading, and I'll be back next week for another edition of the MYBC Virtual Bookstore Author Series. Good night, everybody.
Beautiful. Bye, all.